Before I get started, I wanted to remind everybody that there are over 150 videos on this channel and growing weekly. You can use the YouTube search feature at the top of the channel button, put in whatever keywords you're looking for, and I'm sure at least one video will pop up with that subject matter addressed in it in the tag. So I want to say that because I'm getting a lot of emails, little messages from people asking about particular topics, and I'm wondering why they haven't seen them, because they're definitely there. So that's one suggestion that I have for everyone, especially if you're a new visitor to the channel. Just take your time and scroll through and listen to whatever topic interests you, because I've covered so much stuff and there's still a lot to do. But let's get started with today's topic. I want to talk about low self-esteem and confidence, and how those things play out in relationships that women have, not only with men, but with each other, and especially the relationship that you have with yourself. So we want to talk about that, but let me begin by, I want to share a couple of questions that were submitted to my advice column and let you get an idea of the kind of stuff that I have to deal with on a daily basis. I swear some people, I don't know, I don't get it. But anyway, here we go. Letter number 1. My boyfriend is 18 years older than me. I always seem to buy him stuff and make things a little nicer by getting him little gifts and cards. However, he just seems to take and never give. What should I do? I want a little excitement too. Okay, that's letter 1. Letter 2. My boyfriend of 6 months has started spending every single weekend at my house. I don't mind him being here sometimes, or maybe just one night on the weekend, but he's here from Friday when he gets off work to Sunday night. I don't have time to spend with my female friends or family because he's always here on the days I'm not working. Not only that, I was unemployed for quite a while and just getting back on my feet financially with a job that pays a lot less than my previous one. The high grocery bill from feeding him, the increased energy costs, water costs, and other household items he uses are hitting my budget really hard. Is it right for me to ask him to contribute to these expenses? Letter number 3. I'm 28 with 2 children. I've met a 40-year-old guy who also has 2 kids. We've been together for 2 months. Last week, I started discovering money missing and caught him creeping in with my car at 6 a.m. He later told me he took my money and got high with it. I let him go for almost a week. I went to return his things because I had to see him again. I love him so much. He told me he's sorry and that he didn't know what he had till it was gone, and that he is going to get himself together and give me what I deserve, which is a good man who can provide for his woman. Even though he stole from me, I can see the love in his eyes. I know he really cares about me, but all my friends and family say he's no good. What do you think, Miss Heartbeat? And the final letter. I need to know if I am overreacting to this situation. My boyfriend spends all his time online, from the second he gets home from work or wakes up on weekends until 5:30 a.m. the next day. He flirts with the females he talks to in chat rooms and on instant message and tells them he doesn't have a girlfriend. 2 weeks ago, he went on a self-development course for work and came home and announced he'd been sleeping with prostitutes behind my back. I took him back, even though this is the second time this has happened, because he promised he would change. I get wildly jealous and spend half my time crying as he won't spend any time with me. He says I'm putting meaning into everything and that I'm playing mind games with him. I moved away from friends and family to be with this man and feel I deserve to come first in somebody's life. How do I make him realize this? So the letters I just read you are just a small sampling of the types of letters that come across my computer to the advice column on survivingdating.com. Some of them come from Ask Carpet, but most of them come from Surviving Dating. And I am in awe of the total, it's like an epidemic in my mind of low self-esteem amongst women, especially teenagers and young women in their 20s. The older women seem to have a little bit more confidence, but not always. So, I'm primarily talking about a demographic that's pretty young. And I cannot for the life of me figure out what's going on that would make these young ladies be so desperate and anxious and to sacrifice themselves just to have a guy that they call their boyfriend. We're not even talking about a husband now. These are mere knucklehead boyfriends, and they have sacrificed everything for these guys to the point where they are just like dregs of what they used to be, the shadow of their former self. I find that criminal. I find it extremely sad, and so that's why I wanted to do this video, because not only do I want to explain to you what self-esteem and confidence are, as you know, as defined words, but I also want to give you some examples of what exhibiting those qualities looks like in a relationship as well as in other interpersonal relationships. And then I'm going to close out. I don't know if I can fit it all on this one video. I may break this up into two, with the 21 things that I think that people with confidence and high self-esteem will never ever do to themselves. They'll never do it. And I want to give those examples to you so that you can go down the list, and if you see yourself represented there and you do these things to yourself, you give yourself these kind of messages, you need to stop. You've got to stop doing that to yourself. You're killing yourself, and you're going to set yourself up to be used and cast aside by guys who are up to no good, because there's only certain kind of men who are attracted to a woman with low self-esteem. Those are men who are weak and confused themselves. They are not attracted to women who have strength, because they already know they can't handle that kind of woman, and she won't listen to them, she won't give them the time of day, and she's likely to cuss them the fuck out. So they don't really tend to mess with women like that. That's what you want. You want to have guys who you instantly know that you're not the one to be trifled with because of how you conduct yourself, the boundaries that you establish, and the belief systems that you operate your life under. All right? So let me start by defining what self-esteem is for you. In psychology and sociologists who study human interactions, it's defined as an individual's overall emotional evaluation of their own worth and value. So it's totally subjective, because each person is going to have a different standard. There's no one scientific measuring stick for someone who has high self-esteem. It's demonstrated in a variety of ways, which I'll be going over with you. And it's an attitude as well as action. So how those actions are displayed is going to vary from day to day, and definitely from person to person, gender to gender, and age to age. So we can't just make one standard, but it's basically how you see yourself. It's a judgment of yourself, your attitude towards yourself, your treatment of yourself, the way you think about yourself, and how you feel about yourself, and your value to the world and to other people. Okay, that's self-esteem. Now, when you have people who say, well, so-and-so compliments me and they gave me self-esteem, you're confused. Nobody can give you self-esteem. You give that to yourself. So you seeking all this validation from outside sources, guys to tell you you're beautiful, and guys to tell you you're worthy, and guys to tell you they love you, guys to tell you that you're you're worthwhile, and all this kind of stuff that you all go run around seeking. That's not self-esteem. That's somebody with extremely low self-esteem. You're like an empty hole, and you're looking for people to fill you up. And it's like it's pointless, because they can never do it. The only person who can fill you up and make you feel whole and valuable is you. And I suggest you get busy making that happen, because you're looking for other people. That means you're giving them all kinds of power, which I will be talking about a little bit later. You're giving them power to define who and what you are. You're giving them the power to make you feel a certain way about yourself, and that you should never ever do that. Even if what they're saying to you is complimentary and it blows your head up, okay, so then what? They yank the rug out from under you and you deflate like a balloon? I mean, what? You can't do that. You can't give people that kind of power. Okay, so that's self-esteem. Now let's move on to confidence, because we're going to be talking about both of these things throughout this video, and I'll probably be using the words somewhat interchangeably as I move forward. So I don't want anybody to get stuck with, what she mean? What's she talking about? I don't understand. Okay, so that was self-esteem. This is confidence. Confidence is that feeling that you have some shit going on. Okay, you appreciate your abilities, your traits about yourself, your qualities. You know what you're good at. You know what value you bring to a relationship or to a job or to anything, anything that you're involved in. And you reflect those beliefs by behaving in ways which honor yourself and demonstrate that value so people can see the value, you can feel the value, and you honor yourself in every way while you do those things. You never ever ever compromise your values, your morals, or your sense of self. That is a person with confidence. You're sure of yourself. You know that you can be successful. You have abilities, that you have you're self-assured, and that you can accomplish the things that you set your mind to achieve. If you have confidence, then you will go after those things with gusto, and not be timid and afraid of failure, which I will again discuss in a little bit. Now, the closer you see yourself as having these qualities, the more you meet that standards rather of these qualities, the more likely you are to display a healthy sense of confidence and high self-esteem. See, the more you are closer to that mark that you establish in your head, the higher your self-esteem will be. The further away you are from that mark, the more you doubt yourself, the more you condemn and criticize yourself, then the lower your self-esteem and confidence will fall. So you see, it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I found this really interesting thing, and they were talking about how we communicate, right? Because we're talking about communication and displaying confidence in another video, but I found this very interesting scientific study, and they were saying, well, looking at how other people perceive our words. So, we communicate in two ways, right? Words, with our mouths, and then body language. So those are two ways that we communicate a message, and the same exact words with the different body language can have a different meaning, as well as the same body language with different vocal inflections will have a different meaning. So the two things work together. We can tell if somebody's joking or being sarcastic or whatever by looking at how their face looks when they say specific words. So this study says that words account for 7%, only 7% of how people perceive us. I thought, wow, that's really amazing. Tone of voice came in at 38%. And body language was 55%. So as you can see, posture and hand movements and facial expressions are going to count a lot more when you're trying to communicate confidence and high self-esteem than almost anything that you could say. Now, isn't that interesting? I mean, I knew it was important, but I hadn't run across any studies before until the other day. 55% body language. So we're going to be talking about that as we move forward. So why is there an epidemic of low self-esteem in women? I had to give that a lot of thought, because it's just rampant. The total disrespect that women demonstrate towards themselves, and the ass kissing and brown nosing that they do for men is just like appalling. It just makes me feel sick to my stomach. And I hear these things like I used to work as a fitness trainer in a specialized medical facility. I didn't do like bodybuilding kind of training. I did restorative training for people who had injuries and were recuperating, or bad backs, or they had limb replacements, or whatever, heart problems, whatever. I did that kind of training. Very specialized, had to have a lot of education behind it. But one thing I did find was that most of the women who came in had some serious body image issues, and I had to make the training area like a no criticizing zone. It really bugged me how they would come in and they would just dog themselves out for the entire hour. Oh, I'm not strong. I've never been strong. I'm not pretty. I'm too fat. I'm not smart. I'm not skinny enough. I'm too skinny. whatever kind of inadequacies they could come up with about themselves, they would pile it on until even I would feel sorry for them by the time they left and start looking at them like, well, yeah, that is true. You are kind of ugly. I mean, you know what I mean? They're putting these messages out there and they're trying to convince themselves. So it's very easy if you're hearing the messages for them to convince you too. And that's what you all need to keep in mind. So when you are constantly beating yourself over the head like that, and talking about how inadequate you are, or then you communicating that you're not deserving of love, that you're not deserving of respect and good treatment, and that you're a total failure at whatever it is you're talking about. That is very, very bad, and that lowers your self-esteem even more. Some of you will feel like you have to do too much. You have to earn somebody's love and affection and respect and all this by what you do for them. And you seek your validation and approval from outside yourself. And then, you feel really good when you get it. And then you feel super crushed when you don't. And that's what, the risk of depending on someone else for validation and for your sense of, quote, self-esteem, end quote. Some of you will notice that your low self-esteem and insecurity impacts every branch of your life, from your job to your romantic life to even how you discipline your kids, and definitely on how you treat yourself. So having, working on your self-esteem is going to benefit you in so many ways. It's just unbelievable how much better you'll be, how much better you'll feel about yourself when you start doing the things I'm going to recommend for you. Having low self-esteem will lead you to be involved in toxic and abusive relationships, and you'll stay in them because you feel like you don't deserve any better. You can't find any better. Nobody else is going to treat you any better. So why not just stay where you are? Being in these toxic relationships will also make you suffer from depression. Some women resort to addiction or alcoholism because they're trying to escape. They can't escape physically, so they have to, escape at least mentally. And also, it could lead to chronic health issues like hypertension, heart disease. Some doctors even say that, these toxic emotions will manifest in cancers. So, I don't know that. I'm not a physician. I'm just telling you what I read. And then I found another study that said that more than 90% of women in the United States report having some sort of body image issue. Now, we can debate where that comes from all day. I will tell you, though, that African American women tend to have the highest rate of positive body image of any racial or ethnic group in the country. Even if overweight, they still think they fly. So that's at least a good thing. We don't have a body image problem so much, but there's definitely some problems that are exhibited in interpersonal relationships as far as how you guys establish boundaries and what you will and will not do for a man. That's where our ship sinks on that. So let me talk a little bit about, okay, that was, what your self-esteem what that looks like as far as you emotionally. Now let's talk about what it looks like to the world. How are insecurity, low self-esteem, and a lack of confidence exhibited? Well, one thing is that you will think that you don't have really a right to make a demand for proper treatment or to have your needs met. Now, I see this a lot online, women talking about child support. This is a perfect example because this came up the other day. They proud that they don't get child support and they struggling by themselves, or they monkey ass nigga men who made these babies are out buying rims and Jordans and whatnot. Now see, they thinking they're proud by being, the struggle woman. And I just think you just dumb as shit. I don't care if his ass pays $50. He needs to be paying something. And if you got to go to court and put his ass on paper, oh well. That's money that's being taken out of your kids' mouths that they need to grow strong and have access to medical care and proper clothing, books, and everything that they need that you can't buy them because you short on money. And even if you can buy it, they can do more, because now if he's paying, they can take music lessons, dance lessons, they can join sports and get all the equipment they need. Their life can open up more if he contributes like a parent should. Stop thinking that you struggling and being ride or die for these clowns is something that's on a positive tip, because it's not just makes you look stupid. You letting some clown get away with being irresponsible and stupid while you think you have using that as a source of pride for your dumb ass. Oh my God, just too stupid for words. So, okay, that's one point. You don't demand proper treatment or have your needs met, and that means you don't demand it for your kids either. Some of you will compare yourself to other people. Of course, you're going to always come out on the short end of the stick because you created a competition with some imaginary, it's imaginary. It's in your head. The other person is totally unaware of this competition that you have them in. And you judging yourself, into this self-fulfilling prophecy of not measuring up. You, don't you think about all this negative comparison and these competitions that you have is going to like really shatter any self-esteem that you might already have? When you focusing on what somebody else looks like and what somebody else got and what somebody else bought and what somebody else is wearing, how are you focusing on yourself? You can't do both at the same time. So you looking over there and comparing yourself to them. You need to be looking at yourself and up in your own game, putting your energy into your developing and improving yourself and your situation. And the other thing is too, you looking right, you on the outside looking in. You don't really know what the real story is there. You don't know what that person's going through. You don't know what's happening in that person's home. You don't know anything. All you know is what you see and the imaginary stories that you're telling yourself about what you see, about this imaginary competition that you done put yourself in. It just really makes no sense. So you need to stop doing that as well. Some of you believe that, investing in yourself or giving to yourself and taking care of yourself, making yourself a priority is bad. That it means you're selfish. It means you're not a good mother. That you haven't sacrificed enough for your family. Bullshit. Them kids are going to grow up and go on about their damn business and not give you a second thought. You need to be thinking about yourself. They can be by themselves for 10 minutes while you do something for yourself, an hour or two. They can just watch TV or play in their room or something. They won't die. A lot of you will feed yourself negative messages. You do what I call self-talk, negative self-talk. That kills confidence. You fill your head full of fear and loss and, the sense that nobody likes you and nobody wants you. And you criticize yourself and you second guess yourself and you beat yourself up about these alleged weaknesses that you have. You think that if you're not perfect that you're a failure, and you're telling yourself constantly that you're not good enough to have the things that you want or to be the thing that you want to be in your life. I see this all the time. That's why I'm with this black women empowerment mess. I don't mess with them. Because that's what they do. It's like you're supposed to be focusing on yourself. Instead, you sitting over there focusing on some niggas that you claim you don't even want and worrying about who they're fucking and who they're marrying instead of worrying about yourself. And we'll post all kind of hateful memes and links to websites where they're being hated on, where black women are being hated on and stuff like that. And they just share this toxicity amongst themselves over and over, just sick. It's like they're addicted to pain. I don't understand it. They crying and whining about how much it hurts, but then they still sharing these things and still talking about it. See, I'm like, I don't do negative self-talk, and I don't do pages or people that I know are out to hurt me. That's why I have a rule on my wall here on YouTube that no links or names shall be mentioned to other channels where there is hate mongering of women, especially if the women are black. Okay, women, period. Black women is right up there, that's a top priority. Anybody who does that, don't you dare print their name on my page. And you do it more than once, I'm gonna ban your ass. I'm telling you now that that doesn't fly here. You can mention, generally, but not specific, no names and no channel. And I think also another thing that's important is a positive attitude. You have to believe that you can do something, that is possible, that is achievable, and versus believing that you can't, that you're going to fail, that it won't work, that it's a bad idea, you're not qualified, you don't have what it takes. I mean, all these things that people feed themselves, these negative messages, so you end up not even trying because you're afraid of the possibility of failing. But did you ever think that you just might win? Did you ever think that you just might come out on top? Okay, now let's talk about the 21 habits of self-confident women. It's basically shit that confident women just don't damn do. Okay, that's the subtitle. And I think, because sometimes it's like when you talk to people who don't have much confidence or have low self-esteem, they really have a difficult time conceptualizing what I'm talking about. So I think it's always good to not only define terms, which I try to always do so we're all on the same page, but to give examples for you of some of the self-defeating behaviors that you may be 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 doing so that you can recognize what the behavior is, as well as tell you how it's hurting you. Because, like I said, I have a lot of young people on this channel. People raised in foster homes and group homes, or with parents who had various addictions and afflictions, or they just had parents who just really didn't talk to them about these kind of things. Even though they may have been caring and supportive in their own way, they were limited. And so, as parents, we can only do what we can do. My daughter probably has too much information, because sometimes she just holds her ears and runs away from me. But I would rather her have too much than not enough. And that's why I do what I'm doing. So let's go through these. I'm going to talk about 21 things that are behaviors that people who exhibit confidence and high self-esteem just absolutely don't do. All right, number one. They do love themselves and treat themselves well daily. Now, loving yourself, this seems like it's so standard, but a lot of people really don't love themselves, judging by how they treat themselves. So you need to take the time to take care of yourself, with good food, with solid nutrition, with exercise. The body is meant to be moved if you want to have longevity and full use of it for as long as possible. Give yourself proper medical care. Go to the doctor. And if you don't have a lot of money, they have clinics you can go to where the payment rate is on a sliding scale. You need to get your rest. Avoid stressful situations if at all possible. Stress will kill you faster than most diseases will. And, and involve yourself in activities and hobbies and things that bring you joy. That's what confident women do, and they have the confidence to carve that time out for themselves and to do the things that they enjoy without any guilt about it. And they know that they deserve to take care of themselves, and they enjoy how they feel as they maintain their strength and everything from exercising, and there's the way their skin looks and the way their hair looks. All of that is because of sound nutrition, proper water intake, and exercise, just taking care of yourself. So you ladies need to do that, and you can look good way into your senior years and feel just as good as well. Number two, confident women don't judge themselves or criticize themselves endlessly. Like I mentioned before, how my clients would, just like pick on themselves to the point where it just became ridiculous. That's one of the things that you really should concentrate on arresting. When you hear yourself getting ready to give yourself some kind of negative message, just stop yourself. Just like you would if you heard your child saying that about themselves. Women just love to criticize themselves. I don't know, just like to call themselves stupid and awkward and call themselves names and then double guess yourself, like, why did I say that? I should have said XYZ instead. I'm so stupid. I'm so fat. My thighs are so thick. My belly is so jelly. I need a tummy tuck. I need this. My boobs. I'm so ignorant. I'm so useless. Everybody thinks I'm a dummy. The list I could talk about this like a whole video. The things that women say about themselves are just horrible. And what's so sad is, most women are very compassionate and concerned about other people, but they're very hard on themselves, and I don't understand that. So that's one thing, though, that people who are confident and have high self-esteem never do. They never, ever, ever dog themselves. If anything, people will accuse them of being slightly arrogant, but in a humorous way. But they never criticize themselves, and what they also don't do is criticize others. But I'll talk about that in a minute. Number three, they don't dwell on the past. Now, bringing stuff up and putting stuff in your head from like ancient times ago, and still beating yourself up about it, or being embarrassed about it and humiliated or whatever, some shit that happened months ago, or some shit you said months ago, or even years ago. On this note, I have to tell you, you ain't that important. You know what I mean? You thinking that you're the top priority in everybody's mind and everybody's focusing on you. Nobody cares. Nobody remembers what you did or said. People are too busy thinking about themselves. Confident people live in the present, and they plan for the future. Okay, now if you in the past, you can't be in the past and the present at the same time. And if you're looking behind you at the past, you can't be looking forward at the future. So you got to pick one. And I suggest that you turn your butt around and look forward. Stay in the here and now and look forward to what's coming before you get knocked upside the head. Number 4, don't waste your time feeling sorry for yourself. That's something confident women just don't do. They may have a moment, you know what I mean? Everybody's got a moment where they have some problems, and they got to kind of figure out how they're going to solve them. They may feel a little lonely. You get disappointed in your love life or your professional life. The bottom line is life is not fair. It's not always easy either. But if you're one of those kind of people that have, some kind of negative emotion like that makes you unhappy and miserable, and you want to hold on to it, and you want to go feel sorry for yourself for months and months and years, well, you have a problem. You got to take responsibility for your life, and you got to learn to let that stuff go, let that pain and go, let that confusion go, stop holding on to it. But what I keep seeing, though, is people with this problem, with the self-esteem and lack of confidence problem, not only do they hold onto the pain and misery, they will argue with you about it and defend their right to be miserable and defend their right to hurt, because they want to be right more than they want to be happy. And I find that real odd. I'm like, well, I can't help you. I'm out. You chuck up the deuces to them folks. Number 5. Confident women don't sit back passively waiting for their life to change or for stuff to be given to them or for something to be different. They roll their sleeves up and they get busy making that shit happen. Now, everybody who knows me knows I'm not religious. This is one of the problems I have with prayer. Get your ass up off your goddamn knees and do something with yourself. You sitting around waiting for some magical sky daddy to do the work for your ass. It's never going to happen. So you need to do it. You do it. Sometimes what you're praying for is the strength to get off your ass and do it yourself. I mean, if that's what you need to do, some people call it meditation. But it's marshaling your forces, your internal forces, and you knowing that you're going to be responsible ultimately for whatever happens to you. You cannot try to put that responsibility on some invisible being and make that person be responsible for your fucking life. That is ridiculous. And the fact that you would sit there waiting for that, it's like you're grown up now. Come on now. It's no magic pill. It's no magic genie in a bottle. You have to make the changes that you want to see. You have the sole control over your actions, and you are the one who decides where your actions and efforts should be focused. So you got to get busy making it happen. You want to improve results. You want to achieve success. You want to accomplish change. You want shit to be better. Then put a plan in place to start working it. That's what you have to do. And that's what confident women do. They don't sit around. They make shit happen. Number 6. Confident people embrace change. Now, my daddy used to say this, like, whether you want change or not, it's coming. And if you don't run with the change, you're going to be left behind, because change is happening whether you want it to or not. So you're not moving, right? You're just stagnant. You're not moving. You will get left further and further and further behind as the rest of the world and everybody in it moves forward. But, when people are lazy, they get comfortable, right? They don't want to do any work. So everything in their life stays the same. They got the same routine. They stay in the same rut. They got the same bad relationship. They live in the same ghetto-ass Blackistan housing. They hate their job, but because they're too lazy to do anything about it, or it's too comfortable, it's too familiar, they just stay on the miserable job with the miserable co-workers and the miserable pay. And, I'm telling you, I just think about it. I was telling my daughter the other day, it's like, back when you were born, we didn't even have cell phones yet. DVDs, VHS players, MP3 players, all this kind of stuff, MP3 files and all this old stuff. That stuff hadn't been invented yet. And she looked at me like I was crazy because, it's always been here since she's been here. I said, no, we didn't have laptops. We didn't, none of that, all this shit is new. And so these are all changes that have come across, Microsoft. Dell, all these companies were new, and they the only one who was around I think was IBM maybe, but they was like in the mad cars or something. Nothing was portable yet. So it's all it's all new stuff, and these are all changes that have come. It's my daughter's lifetime, and I'm just like, this is just represented. That's just technology. Just think about everything else that has changed. So you got to keep up, honey. You got to keep up. And you cannot get yourself in a rut, and you got some shit that's not working for you. Have the courage to let it go and move on, to make your dreams come true. You got to have courage. Okay, number 7, this is where the courage comes in, taking calculated risks. People with high levels of self-esteem and confidence will take a calculated risk. Calculated means that you think about the pros and cons. You got to weigh it. You know what I mean? You don't just go blindly into some shit. You weigh, okay, well, if I do A, then C might happen, D, E, F. Can I handle that? Is that what I want? Or should I do B and then, have X, Y, and Z happen? You got to think about it. So you figure out which one is the best outcome with the least amount of risk, and then that's the path that you take. And if it's something that's scary, the people that have confidence will feel the fear and do it anyway. That's one of my favorite phrases that I have over my desk. Feel the fear and do it anyway. And that's something that got me into public speaking, that made me write my first book, that made me change careers and to become a web developer and content developer and things. I mean, all of these things were scary because I didn't know anything about them at the time. It was all new. I had to learn everything about web design and contents and web metrics and all this stuff. I had taught all myself all those things. But it's exciting because it's blazing a new trail, it's exploring, it's trying some new things, it's getting new experiences, and you get to test yourself. You get to test yourself in unknown situations, and you get to see that you can survive and you can handle it, and you become stronger, more knowledgeable, more capable. That in turn builds more greater self-esteem. It makes you feel even more confident in your abilities. So see, it's like, if you don't move forward, if you don't try new things, if you don't take risks, you'll never ever be a winner. It's like I tell dudes, it's like, because they like sports, right? So that's one of my analogies. Okay, it's like, okay, you made it to the team, right? You on the bench, and you want a home run, but your ass don't never get up and you don't never swing the bat. How you gonna get a home run then? Is it gonna magically appear in your hand? I mean, what? So you don't ever get up to bat. You don't ever swing the bat. You're gonna risk getting a strike. You're gonna risk being striked out, but you're gonna risk hit by the ball. But the bottom line is, you could very well hit it over the fence and have bring everybody home. So it's a risk, yeah, but it is one that has more benefits than it has potential for injury, and so that's the way you should go. Number 8, confident women never avoid the possibility of failure. I just talked about that a little bit, but for people who would rather not do something that fail, just basically wipes out the possibility of succeeding. You have to accept yourself with your flaws and all, and people who are confident realize that failure is just another step on the road to success, right? And they don't let their failures define who and what they are. That is key. Some people will fail and they just wallow in it for years in their misery, and will never ever want to try again because of that one little failure. What you're supposed to do is say, well, I just figured out the way that shit won't work, so let me scratch that off the list. And then you go on down the list and you keep trying new shit until you find the one that works. That's what you do. And if you think that failure is the end of the world, you've already failed at life. I mean, there's nothing for you here. Why are you even here? You got to get the courage to take some risks here. Just risk failure, and then you never know. It's at least a 50-50 odds, right? 50% that you could win, 50% that you could fail. And in most instances, it's more on the side of success than it is failure. I'm just using 50% because it's an easy number and I don't feel like thinking too hard. Number 9, confident women carve their own path and refuse to live by other people's standards. Now, this is very important, especially for African American women, because y'all on that submission shit, and you like to have men dictate and tell you what to do and lead you and all this old stuff. In reality, you're a grown-ass woman. You need to carve your own path, and then you find a man who is in line with the path that you have carved. No woman should ever give up who and what she is and what she wants to be and her dreams to have a man and listen to his ass and try to dictate some shit. I wish I would. Because here they go. They always want to try to twist and mold you into what they think you should be. And you got to look at it like already as women, we have like all these rules and judgments that we have to deal with on a daily basis about what we should wear and not wear and say and not do, and our values and religious beliefs and social values and social mores and laws, and everything is trying to control what women do, what women say, the options and opportunities that women have. We had to fight for every goddamn thing that we have with men because they felt like they was giving up power to give us something that what we wanted. And I don't know. You just have to feel comfortable enough in your own skin to not really worry about what other people try to make you be and who they try to make you be. It's a lot of it's hard to resist all those influences. I understand that because we start getting it from our parents, and then we get it from our friends, we get it from our other family, we get it from our mates, we get it from our professors or teachers, whatever. And everybody has want to have an input and tell you what they think you should do and what they think you should be and what you shouldn't do and what you shouldn't be. And I'm thinking, like, if you want to be something creative and unconventional and people are telling you not to, do it anyway. Because you know what? The only one who's going to be on your deathbed is you. And the only one whose life that you can live is yours. And, you have to have the confidence to determine your own rules for your life and then live by it. Other people are going to have an agenda. Sometimes it's a good one. I'm not saying that everybody's out to hurt you. But you got to still question, why is it so important to them to push their agenda down your throat? They have their own life to live, and they need to do that and keep their business over there while you live your life. Okay? Number 10, confident women don't give away their power to men or to anybody else. Now, people will try to guilt trip you. They try to make you feel obligated to do stuff for them, right? And then they try to make you feel bad if you say no, you don't want to do it. You can't give away your power because that means basically you giving that other person you giving them the power to control your mental and emotional well-being. You're giving them the power to control what you do. And I remember this phrase Eleanor Roosevelt used that said, "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent." And that's true because people can say whatever the fuck they want to say and think whatever the fuck they want to think. What's that got to do with you? That's my attitude. That's like, okay, well, you think that. Who told you could even think in the first place? Let's start there. You're ill-equipped to think. So anything that follows that sentence is erroneous and irrelevant to me because you're not qualified to think, and you're definitely not qualified to think nothing about me. I can think about me because this is my life. So see, that's my attitude. I have that fuck you attitude about everything unless it's somebody that I really, really trust and I specifically ask them for their input. But in general, people come telling me some shit about what they think about what I did, said, wrote, said, what? What? Who are you? Little mosquito-ass people, shut up. Buzzing around trying to have some conversation. So, this is something very important. You got to make sure that you maintain control over your power and understand that nobody can make you do something or feel any kind of way without your permission. You have to buy into that shit and let them make you feel that way. And if you don't buy into it, you don't give them that power, then you just laugh in their face and going down the road. Now, another thing, we're on point 11 now. Confident women refuse to be people pleasers. Now, people pleasers also give away their power, but it's in a different way because they basically kiss everybody's ass. It can be male, female, they boss, the next door neighbor, even their kids. And they just worry so much about people liking them that they let people just run the fuck over them every chance they get. Now, a confident woman is, she's aware of what she's going to bring to the table, and she just lets you know, this is it. This is what I got. You can either take it or leave it. That's all you get. There's no, option C here. And they're able to say no because they can handle someone being upset or angry at them. A lot of women don't. They're like, oh, I don't want so-and-so to be mad. I don't want them to be upset. Even with dudes, I want to break up with him, but I don't want to hurt him. Oh, you can't worry about him. You worry about yourself. If he's getting on your fucking nerves, then that means he's hurting you. And now here you are worried about hurting him by ending a relationship where he's hurting you. I see that logic escapes me. I don't understand that line of thinking. And when confident women make their own decision because they're not trying to please everybody. They're trying to please themselves because they're making a decision that's right for them. And when you're able to do that, you build your own confidence because you get stronger. You believe more in yourself. And when you make your own decisions in life, you got to understand that some people are going to be upset. It's not going to be on their agenda. What you did is going to ruin their plans. They're not going to be able to use you the way that they plan to or wanted to or have been in the past. They're losing control over you, okay? But if you are one of those people that really don't give a shit, then, you're not a people pleaser. If you're the kind of person who feels like you can't handle other people's emotional responses, then you're going to stay in a situation where you're controlled and people pleasing, and your life is going to turn into even more shit than it already is. Point 12, confident women are not afraid of rejection. This is a big one with dudes. They just will cringe and just want to dry up and blow away. They're so scared of rejection. But, I guess it's kind of a natural thing. I mean, people want to get what they want to get out of a certain situation. They want people to say yes to the, they want to be hired. They want to get to date. They want to be your friend. And I mean, that's fine though that people say no. I mean, they have a right to say no, just like you do. But the problem is when people have low self-esteem, what they do is they take that no or that person's refusal or rejection, they assume that that means that something's wrong with them. Some of them will get angry. They get so angry they get violent. And what you see in common with people like that is they're desperate to impress other people, and they're desperate to get what they want out of the situation. They have too much invested in a situation where they really shouldn't have anything invested because it's just an exploratory type of situation. They should be focusing more on what their needs are, and if this person, this situation, this job, whatever, actually meets their needs. Is it a good fit? Is there some kind of mutual need fulfillment there? She can't be worrying too much about whether they like you and all that old shit, because you need to be worrying about whether you like them and whether the chemistry is right and there's compatibility there, and if it's going to work for you long time. Trying to get everybody to like you and approve of you is folly, because in real life, in the real world, not everybody's meant to be your friend. Even if you're in a relationship, not every relationship is meant to be long term. Some of it might be just a couple of dates, but you got to be willing to accept that rejection if it should come, and the finality of the ending of these types of relationships or interactions. It doesn't mean anything's wrong with you. It just means it didn't work. I mean, okay, why are you tripping? Number 13, confident people don't demand perfection of themselves. It's kind of a summary of some of the other points, but the perfectionism, there's people who are total perfectionism, and they're like obsess over this and so everything has to be absolutely perfect. Otherwise, they feel like it's a criticism of their personality, it's a criticism of their actions. It's like they can't have just, pretty good or good enough and move on to the next thing. They have to be absolutely perfect, and it makes for problems for everybody else. You have to give yourself room to make mistakes. You know what I mean? You can have a lazy moment. You don't have to make up your bed every day. You can have steps sometimes. You can forget stuff sometimes. But the more often you forgive yourself, it's easier for you to be more social, more outgoing, and get what you want in your dating life, in your professional life, in your family relationships, out your bratty ass kids. Just stop with the perfection thing. And I think our goal should not be to become perfect, but to focus on being a better person today than we were yesterday. If you made a mistake, if you did something that you felt like, would have been better done a different way, just mark it down and remember it for the future. To me, we're all entitled to make mistakes, but what my grandfather used to say, okay, once is a mistake, twice is a habit. And I was like, oh, okay. I see what he's talking about. So, you do something one time, it is a mistake. It was an error. You apologize, whatever, you move on. But if you kept repeating that same shit, see, now you're doing some shit intentionally, and now you got a bad habit, and there's no mistakes about that, and nobody needs to forgive you for it, including yourself. You are choosing to do that particular thing. So I like to focus on, becoming a slightly better person than I was the day before. And you look at yourself as a human becoming versus a human being. And that way you're constantly on a quest to improve yourself, and you never think, just rest on your laurels thinking that everything about you is perfect and wonderful all the time. Number 14, confident women don't hate on other women. Okay, this is a key because y'all be tripping. I remember one time, I don't know how old was I, about 11, 12, 13, something like that. And I was having a birthday at my grandmother's house, and she's lighting the candles, and all the kids, how you crowd around, everybody's crowded around to sing happy birthday, and then the birthday kid has to blow out the candles, so she lighting them, and she says, you kids, you need to learn not to pick on each other, but to share your light around, so that we'll, basically when we grew up, that we would all be better people when we grew up. And she says a candle loses nothing by lighting another candle. And that's what she did. She had lit one, right? And then she used that one candle to light all the other ones on the cake. And she said, then put that one in the cake. And so it was still burning, just as bright as all the other ones that it had lit. And that's how she visually demonstrated to us that You lose nothing if you light another candle. Basically, you lose nothing if you light up another person's world. So for women, that's acknowledging another woman's intelligence, telling her that her clothes look good, that she's beautiful, that she has talent, skills, knowledge, all that stuff. Nothing about that takes away from you and your own abilities. And a confident woman knows that, and a confident woman will demonstrate that kind of treatment towards her sisters. She finds it real easy to celebrate the accomplishment of other women, and she'll light those candles joyfully if she can, because it's like this: when you feel good about yourself, your happiness spills over to the people that are around you. And you can only do that, though you're not selfish and grudgeful and shit and being a hater, if you are a woman with high self-esteem and confidence. The ones who don't are the ones, look at that bitch there, who she thinks she is, why is she looking at me like that, man. Okay, those are the bitches you just want to leave alone because they're ignorant. And you have somebody like that, they're gonna try to bring you down and just totally rain on your parade. And if you recognize yourself as being one of those kind of women, you need to fix that shit immediately. Number 15, confident women are not social media hoes. Okay, the chicks on Instagram showing half their titties. They got like 1 million followers, and all these dudes thirsty as fuck. Oh, you're so gorgeous. I would pay you $50 and let me just look at you. I'm gonna pay you $5,000. You can have my whole paycheck. They just thirsty as hell. And you showing your ass and you doing all these sexy pictures and all this old stuff. Or, some dudes post something about, well, a real woman this, a real woman that. And here's your ass clicking like and co-signing and talking about what you do, freaky shit you do in bed and how you treat your man and all this stuff. Your ass is thirsty and desperate, and you just letting everybody know. And look at you with your picture up there and shit, where you work and where you went to school and all that stuff, and your family picture, just embarrassing yourself and everybody related to and everybody who knows you by being, just desperate. You letting everybody, all the men, know that you suck a dick and you cook naked and you take care of your man and all this old stuff. I mean, come on now, really? Just be a woman with some self-esteem and some confidence. If you have that, you don't need to beg for attention and acknowledgement and validation from people online that are complete strangers. That's just ridiculous. I mean, I added this one in because it's unfortunately a common behavior trait. But, I can't even tell you how much I was rolling my eyes as I was adding this to my outline. Just rolling my eyeballs. Okay, number 16, let's move on here. Confident women with high self-esteem refuse to stay in a toxic relationship. Now, this could be personal or it could be professional. If you're a confident woman, you won't stay in any kind of situation that will negatively impact your emotional peace, your peace of mind, your wallet, your physical health, your mental health, your emotional health, whatever. It's a toxic relationship, you're out. Because a confident woman knows that, she knows what she deserves to have, and she has no problem leaving behind any person, any place, or anything that does not measure up to those standards. And if you're confident in your position, then you refuse to compromise on anything about these type of situations. You just chuck up the deuces and you be out. And a lot of women don't have the confidence to do that, and they will stay in these abusive, nasty relationships where they're being mistreated, they're not being taken care of, they're being ignored, abandoned, all kinds of horrible things. Overworked and overburdened by the man, while he's just a lazy bum. And the women stay in the relationships, and I think that's very, very sad. But they feel like they would rather stay there and suffer than be without a man. And so what can you do? A woman who has high self-esteem never obsesses over other people's opinions, because that's that old saying about assholes and opinions. Everybody got at least one. You just don't absorb those kind of things. And when people try to give you some old negative energy and start trying to be critical or something, tell you what they think and what they want and what they believe and what you should have and do and be and say, you just know who you are. You know what you're about. You know what you can accomplish by your willpower, and really that's all that counts. Just proceed on your path. Ignore the naysayers and the mudslingers and what they call the shade throwers. Just ignore them, because sometimes people, they have that crabs in a barrel mentality. They down on their back and all busted, and they want to pull you down with them. So you got to watch that. You listen to what folks got to say too much and their negative messages, and the next thing you know, your train will be derailed. Number 18, women who are confident and have high self-esteem don't put anybody else on a pedestal, and they definitely don't compare themselves to other people. You know, they aren't trying to be somebody else. But you got confidence. You're just trying to be the best me that you can be. You know, you appreciate who and what you are as an individual, as a unique person, and you're not trying to be anybody else. You're not trying to be you just can't be anybody other than what you are. I mean, I don't even know how to explain this because you think about it, no matter how great you are, because I think my ass is fabulous. But I am aware of the fact that there are women who are younger, better looking, they taller, they definitely have more money, they have a hotter body, they're younger, they got more education, whatever, you know what I mean? It's like you'll never win if you start comparing yourself to everybody that you come across. You're always going to come out on the short end of the stick, especially if you're looking at shit in a magazine. You're not even looking at a real person. You're looking at photoshopped images, and some serious retouching. So you can't compare yourself to any of those kind of images or any of those kind of fantasy people. Just be your own best and concentrate on improving on that. Just accept who and what you are. Embrace your uniqueness. And, because everybody has value. Everybody has value. It's just going to be different from person to person. Number 19, confident women do not chase after dick. You don't chase men, okay? Confident women know their value. So when it comes to relationship and, getting involved with some dude, there's no chasing involved. You're not going to be blowing up nobody's phone. You're not going to be going through his wallet. You're not going to be going through his phone. You're not going to be checking on his social media accounts to see who his friends are and sending notes to the woman like, how you know my man, bitch, and all of those silly shit. You don't do all that because you know your value. And when a woman's confident, she's not going to be going out of her way being all excessive and doing all kind of extra shit to keep some man interested. And she's not going to worry what to do to keep him around. She's just basically going to let him know, dude, this is the program. If you treat me wrong, it's going to be your loss and I'm going to be out. We're not even going to have a discussion about it. It's just going to be over. And this is the standards, the boundaries under which you can maintain a relationship with me. Anytime you cross them, the relationship is over. And whether you say you wanted to break up or not, your behavior will be communicating that is what you wanted, because I'm telling you now, this is what the deal is. So they don't chase men. They let men pursue them. But what you do have to do is express interest, which I will be going into. Ooh, I might have to put this on another video because this is getting kind of long. Number 20, we're almost at the end here. Confident women establish boundaries and they're very assertive about them. Now, what is a boundary? A boundary is a limit for how people will interact with you. There's like a fence. You're inside the fence and the bullshit is on the outside of the fence. So if you want to come in, you got to leave the bullshit outside the fence, right? That's a boundary. So there are basically 4 types. You got intellectual ones, you got emotional ones, you got financial ones, you got physical ones. Now, when you have a boundary, what it basically means is that you stand up for yourself. If you're standing up for yourself intellectually, that means that what you think, what you write, happens to me a lot. What I think, what I write, what I say is discounted and attacked by, groups of men. And, they try to put me in a position where I have to defend what I say, or they want proof and all this old shit. I'm like, you want proof? Go find it. That's not my job. My job is to say what I think. And that's it. That's all I have to do. And for your emotional boundaries, you're not going to let somebody lie to you, cheat on you, and, hurt you in way, over and over. I might get that first time, but after that, that's your decision. That's your boundary. They cross the boundary, so you have the decision to make. The financials, like the girl who was in one of the questions I read at the top of the video. Her dude stealing from her purse. He's stealing money and using her car without her permission. So he has violated a financial boundary. And as far as physical, sometimes, that would fall under the realm of people touching you, assault, touching your body, blocking your path, doing all kind of things where there's a physical threat to your safety or peace of mind. You tell them not to touch you and they do it anyway. Well, they violated a physical boundary. So you standing up for yourself, and their boundaries establish parameters under which other people can interact with you. So you're basically letting them know how you expect to be treated, how you are not going to be getting taken advantage of, how you say no, that you don't want to do something, you don't have no guilt about it. You're preserving yourself, your energy. And if you have the confidence to walk away from toxic people in your life without hesitation, then that's a sign that you have assertively established and maintained a boundary. And the last one, point number 21, and this one is really interesting. And I struggled with how to word this, but basically, it is that you show gratitude towards not only other people but yourself as well. And how do you do that? You appreciate what you have. You appreciate your quality. You appreciate your the things about you that make you special and unique and lovable. And you have to tell yourself that. A lot of women don't really take the time to acknowledge those things about themselves, and it's very sad. I mean, we all got challenges. Don't get me wrong. Everybody's going to face some challenges in life, and there's going to be moments when you feel vulnerable, and I mean, your feelings might get hurt or whatever, but you got to, if you have healthy self-esteem, it's easier for you to roll with the punches. You don't like go take to your bed for 3 days wallowing in your tears. You like, well, that's fucked up. I guess that's what happened. You'll be sad for, a few minutes, an hour or two or something. And then you're going to just move on. And when you have a healthy self-esteem, it helps you to kind of slow down, and you see the forest, and you see the beauty and the variations in color and the light patterns, and you can hear the animals and the birds and everything. So you have a good view of the whole forest and its beauty, instead of focusing on the one tree that got a broken branch and that's half dead. See, that's what the people who have low self-esteem do. They miss all the beauty. They don't even see that. They be focusing on what's wrong, versus what's right. And that is a very key thing that I think needs to happen. That's why the gratitude is so important. Showing gratitude and appreciation for yourself and other people, it shifts your mindset. So instead of being on the negative tip, you on the positive tip. And one way you can do that is, by focusing on the things that you love about yourself. Think about your accomplishments versus thinking about the things that you don't like or the things that you made, a mistake with. And if you think about the things that you love about yourself and your accomplishments, then you boost your self-esteem and your confidence automatically. You'll feel happier, and that in turn boost your confidence and self-esteem even more. You see what I mean? So it becomes like this little circular hamster wheel of happiness that you put yourself on, because you change from a negative mind state to a positive one. And you need to share that with others. Let them know how much that you appreciate how much they supported you, and how much that you appreciate what they've given you and done for you, and how grateful you are that they're in your life. That's not going to hurt you, and it makes other people feel good that you acknowledge the efforts that they did on your behalf. I don't know. I think demonstrating gratitude it's just you accept your quirks, and even the things that other people might think are negative about you. You accept those things about yourself. You embrace them, and you just use those things to make better decisions in the future that are in your own best interest. But one thing you don't do is harp on the negative and beat yourself up about any of these things that I've said in the video today. So what do you do? How do you improve your confidence? Okay, well, you make sure that you don't be doing the stuff that I just read off. And, those are the things that confident women just don't do. But you can also take some steps to improve your confidence in very little ways. Like if you go into a situation, let's relate this to dating, since that's what we primarily talk about here. So let's say you go into a situation where you're meeting some new people, or a new man, or you at a party, or whatever. The number one thing that you need to do, remember when I referenced that thing about 55% of your communication being in how people perceive your body language? Standing up straight and tall with good posture. Head up, chin up, not like, you lifting your chin towards the ceiling, not that high. But, shoulders back, head up. Meet people by looking them in the eye. Don't look down at the floor. You want to have good eye contact. You want to smile. You don't want to be overly serious when you first meet people, and you definitely want to be walking around with a mean mug on your face. And watch your arms. That thing, like a lot of people like to cross their arms. I mean, if you cold, put on a sweater. I mean, I know sometimes you do that because you're like, ooh, bird, you're trying to warm up. But we say we're inside, we're at some kind of event, and you're walking around with your arms crossed. That's a defensive posture. That's a very protective stance. Unless you're giving a presentation or doing something where you need to, have this kind of power pose, taking a picture of something, then it's not going to be perceived as powerful. It's going to be perceived as you're afraid and defensive and got something to hide. You want to watch fidgeting. Some people do. They like twirl the chair, and they flick their foot back and forth after they cross their legs back and forth. They flip, finger their hair. They wiggle their fingers around. They do some kind of nervous fidgeting type movement. That doesn't exhibit confidence. If you're in a chair, you want to sit back, cross your legs, lean back slightly from the table, and look everybody in the eye. Not like an arrogant jerk, but with confidence and a slight smile. Okay, you want them to know I'm here and we about to do some serious damage. You want to watch your tone of voice and the language that you use as well, because a lot of women use this what I call mousy language. Oh, I think so. Well, maybe. What kind of? And then you had that high, like little baby ass voice. I hate that shit. Put some bass in your voice and talk like a grown woman. And stop being hesitant and timid. Say what you think and mean what you say. If it's yes, say yes. Not, oh, maybe, I think so. Oh, I don't know. That's just, what are you, 5? Come on. And in closing, I think, if you're really struggling with this confidence and self-esteem thing, let me give you a couple of tips that you can try. And it's going to take you about a week to do these exercises. Number 1. Every day for a week, I want you to think of one thing that you're grateful for about yourself. Okay, one thing that you enjoy or like about yourself, and then write down 3, 4, 5 maybe sentences that support that statement, and then read them back to yourself and looking at yourself in the mirror. Okay, because you're basically talking to yourself. You're replacing negative self-talk with positive self-talk. Okay. The second idea is for you to go out of your way to give somebody else a compliment every day for 7 days. And if you're like, well, there's nobody around me is worth complimenting, stop lying. Everybody has something that they can be complimented about. It might not be looks, they definitely might not be their body, but what, are they a good friend to you? Do they always have your back? Or is there somebody that can always be depended upon by, their family? Are they a really good mom? Are they always the person who does what they say they're going to do? Are they always on time? Are they a fabulous cook? Do they keep the house really clean? I mean, there has to be something that you can compliment that person about, and then I want you to do it 7 different people every day of the week. Okay, and the final idea is to make sure that if you do get into a situation where you're, meeting somebody new, to make sure that you don't rush things. Try to give yourself, here we are a week again, 7 days from when you go out with them the first time to when you go out with them the second. Do not let a guy bum rush you at a top-notch speed through a relationship. So as you see, these 3 points each takes a week. And during that week where you're spending that time getting to know him, make sure you talk on the phone. Ask some of the hard questions that I've been coaching you to do in these video series. And check out the 25 manipulative things, ways that black men manipulate you series. There's a playlist for it. All 25 videos will teach you some different tricks of datings and some of the games that men run on women. Okay, so get up on your game and then make sure you work on your confidence and your self-esteem. Because your goal, my loves, your goal is to meet a man and you just like swoop into his life and inspire him to chase after you. And you want a guy who thinks that you are so exciting, you have such confidence. You want him to see you as a prize. You want him to see you as hot and sexy and stimulating and inspirational and valuable. And, physical attractiveness is good. It's good, don't get me wrong. But did you know that men rate confidence higher on a romance than they do physical attractiveness? That's why you can see so many really good-looking men with women that don't look so great, but because that woman is confident, he can't get enough of her. She got his mind. See, she got his mind working, and that's what I'm trying to teach y'all how to do. And at one point, I guess I'll work on the video about how to get a guy to fall in love with you. But this is the first part. You got to work on your confidence and your self-esteem. Because if you're too easy, he don't have to really put in no work to get you. You have no value to him. And you think you get dogged out and mistreated. You think it's all good because you got a man. You won't have his ass for long. Men must respect the woman that they're with. They've got to respect you. Anyway, this video was long as all hell. And I I'm gonna I'm gonna take a break. I'm not gonna do one tomorrow. But you guys listen to this. I know it's a lot to listen to. You probably have to listen to it several times to get the full, bit of information, pull every bit of information out of it that you'll need. Do what you got to do. But this is mandatory. You guys have got to get yourselves together. I cannot stand to see so many women begging for men's attention, just desperate, staying in relationships with men that treat them like shit. And, they just still there. I just don't get it, and I don't like it, and I want you to stop doing that. Anyway, my name is Deborrah Cooper. I am the advice columnist on survivingdating.com and askheartbeat.com. You can check out my books on amazon.com, everything from dating and relationships to a vegan cookbook. And sort through, as I suggested, search through the more than 150 videos on this channel. The number is increasing every week. So, just put in your keywords and search away and find what you want to hear. And I hope you enjoy it. Talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.